Excellent.
All right, we're live. Dave's not here to do the fancy announcement, so I'll do my best. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Twilla Happy Hour podcast, where if a head trauma had a podcast, this would be it. Humana. And I am Jared. Dave's not here. He is in his home country, New York State, attending something or another. And so the stand-in that we've got is Miss Holly Crowley Rabanne. Did I say that last
Rabanne, yeah.
Rabanne. God, man, that
One of these days. I've only known you for how long?
a year, 2 years.
Holly is just fine. I'll be filling in for Dave tonight. So please forgive me if I don't get everything right.
We're going to chat about news and anything, of course, that you guys want to talk about. But this last weekend, we had the Mallory's or Mally Mays, the Shield Maiden tactical defensive handgun course went on this last weekend, and I was there and Jessica was there and met a lot of new people there.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was good. Jessica showed up again. She had to leave a little early on test day, but she is fun to watch shoot.
She's incredible. And it's also, you might want to note that you were an instructor at this event.
Yeah, it was my maiden dalliance into being an instructor, and I loved it. Yeah.
I'm telling you, having had the pleasure of shooting with you and being taught by you on a few occasions, I'm extremely impressed by your ability. Even though you're super humble about it, you've taught me a ton, and just, I think you were born for it. I think a match with Mallory and the Shield Maidens was perfect for you and Fred working together, because Fred is also someone I highly respect, both in his talent and as a friend, and Mallory as a friend.
Yeah.
And Fred you as a friend.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that you guys did that. And I hope that she's prepared to do more, because I'd love a refresher, and I would love to drag 10 of my favorite humans to her class where you're instructing as well. I've dragged humans for you to teach in private as well.
You have, but you initiated by taking me to this class at the time you came on the show. Actually, I think it was the first time you did an in-house with
That's
us.
right. I forgot that
you got me into it.
That I told you about the class and made you sign up with me.
Oh, we just got to get Dave on board.
Oh, and his wife.
Yes.
I think Patricia would be awesome.
Yes, we just have to,
where do we go to send people? Because I know the Shield Maidens is Mallory's class, but she's a group.
Yeah, she's tied in with DefenseSenseUSA.com. And that's West Brandon's, his group that he teaches. And so they'll teach every other one between the two of them.
And I've trained with Wes as well as Mallory. For me, when I was first looking to get into something, as a woman, I wanted to learn from a woman. And that isn't necessarily because, I have this feeling that a woman's a better teacher or anything like that. What I wanted logical, everyday carry sense, whereas a man can carry in his waistband and it can hide, or in his pocket. A woman has to be a little more inventive. Yeah,
well, especially like you wear a lot of dresses.
Yeah.
And they're form-fitting dresses. They're not like loose, flowy numbers where you could...
A dress is a dress too. Just to access it.
Yeah.
A weapon
and that
you're
is another
carrying.
Good point. Yeah, especially like the dress you're wearing today is a one piece. Is that the correct way to say it? A one piece. So like dress. You wouldn't be able to get at it.
Right. And it goes down to the knees or past the knees. So it's not like I have.
It's not a risque number or none of that. It's just that it goes from shoulder to your knees is all one piece. So there's not like an access point, like under a t-shirt or something.
Yeah.
Now you do have a jacket, and do you wear this with it all day?
No.
Okay, so
So a purse is my best option when I am dressed up like that, or to hang out with someone who I know is carrying. So accessorize with good people.
accessorize with good people.
But
I love it.
the one thing I loved was, and I brought women with me to the class. I brought a few actually, because when you're being taught by somebody who is, I mean, she's tiny. She's a tiny little thing, but she's got
like 108
a
pounds.
roar of a lion. And she just explained, how to make it's an even game when a female is armed, and there is at any moment. It's always when you least expect it, of course, but the type of encounters a woman faces are different than that of a man. A man isn't going to be worried necessarily walking to his car from the grocery store, or have toddlers in the stroller or in the cart while they're putting away groceries. You always think, as a mom, the first thing I do when I get to my car and put away groceries, I want my children out of the weather and into the car, and not in the way where someone could hit my cart. Of course, my purse, so someone couldn't just run by and grab it. But in the past, I never really thought about my safety watching behind me. I, as a daughter of law enforcement, was always in the habit of checking the front of my vehicle, the back of my vehicle. If it's dark, I'm watching my surroundings. I'm looking for who's around me. That was something that I grew up just kind of learning. But again, when you have kids and chaos and groceries and a purse, anything can happen, and did. I think I told you I was in the parking lot of Walmart on 13th. It's the worst store in state, or 13th South. It's got an underground parking garage.
Oh, yes.
And it's pretty well lit, but at the time my children were 4 and 2, and I had loaded them into the car with my groceries to the back of the hatchback. The hatchback's up. I put my 4-year-old in, and then I was carrying my 2-year-old, and I'm walking to her side, and I'm putting her in her car seat, when right behind me, I mean, his mouth touched my hair, is how close he was to me. And he said, "Hey ladies, you have some money." And it scared me so bad that instinctively I shoved him as hard as I could away from me. And I was like, what is the matter with you? Why would you not stand 5 feet away and let me know that you want my attention? Too, why would you approach a woman who's alone with a baby, a 2-year-old? In a second, all the cars are so squished together in that parking structure, and there's probably a lot of people, but at the time, I just remember looking around and seeing nobody. And he was a homeless man, but he was a big man, and he was very gruff, and I think he was on something. It just had every element of feeling of desperation that just swooped over me. And what do I do if this guy has a weapon? And I mean, he was so close to me. There was no other thought that could occur to me other than intimidation from him, And I said, "You need to step back. And I said, "I'm going to scream. I'm going to call the police." And he's like, whoa. You don't have to be a bitch," was his answer to me. Again, I'm panicking because I didn't have any means of protection, and I literally had my child in my hand.
However you acted, he elicited that action from you
Right.
by his actions.
Right. I have been around homeless people, having lived downtown for a lot of years. I'm very, I have compassion, of course, and I would never have reacted that way had he done something.
Had he come to the front of the car where you still had the vehicle between you and him,
Yeah.
or even the door,
Just a distance of even 5 feet where
Yeah.
"Excuse me, I don't want to bother you. I just, could I put your groceries away or something to help? Is there anything I can do?" Or, "Ma'am, I'm struggling. My car broke down," anything. But most men that I know would never approach a woman that way. And then be aggressively like that. It was very scary. And when you're being taught training. It's very, very important to trust your trainer, for one, but also that it's very nice to have somebody that could find yourself in that situation, and maybe who has, or somebody. Women have different fears, whether we admit it or not, if they're being fears or just awarenesses, than men do. We have to be more alert. We just have to be more conscious of what's happening around us. And there are men who are trained in the military who are trained to have that same awareness times 10. But I think from a little girl, you lock the door when you get home. Make sure your door is always locked. My children know this. Make sure that you are not alone after dark, or that you have people you can trust where you can go, or just little tiny things we've learned. And I'm a Gen X kid, so I'm used to being out till the lights turn on when we go home. But I also had a gaggle of brothers, so I was rarely alone. And when we were young in our age, when I remember kidnappings happen, John Walsh's son was kidnapped, and that was a very big deal.
Johnny
Rachel
Goff.
Runyon was kidnapped when we were kids. And it has just started coming to light in the media, to where I think anyone in our generation our parents were just getting this for the first time.
Yeah, we had the milk cartons first show up when we were 4 or 5.
Yeah, of missing kids.
And I think that has a lot to do with the news became 24 hours. So we started seeing more of that, but still.
Well, John Walsh helped create
John Walsh,
huge awareness.
America's Most Wanted guy.
And the Organization for Exploited Children, Missing and Exploited Children, and which led into the millennial, I think, generation, to where they started discovering that these children may not have been kidnapped like our day, but they're being trafficked.
Yeah.
And then that awareness came to where I can't imagine a greater hell than my child is missing, but never finding them, never knowing if they were killed, if they were trafficked, if they're in some basement somewhere in some god-awful country, being abused. So I think that it's kind of off the rails, which isn't like me. But
that's my job. What are you doing?
For me, training with Mallory was so important, because I knew that she had that same type of lessons in life she's had to learn, just because she's a woman and she's a small woman. And yet she's as large as life and feels like it's an even playing field when she is armed. And that's how I think every woman should be able to feel that they're not victims, that we aren't at any moment victimized or going to be, and that we don't have to be afraid. And I think, and it's not about trying to hurt someone or thinking men are awful. It's not about that at all. The beauty of the class was about ourselves, and taking ourselves responsibility for our actions, accountability, and leaning on the men in our lives who also, by nature, you want to protect women. I think it's in your blood, most men, but this is in addition to, I love that you want to protect me, and I want to protect myself and you. And the training is just so realistic as far as what could happen in your everyday life. It's not sitting on a range and shooting, 50 meters or 50 feet away. You're in real life situational, distance. If someone's going to attack you, it's going to be within 6 feet. It's going to be in your driveway at night, or coming through your front door, in a parking structure. If a stranger is going to attack you, it's a little different if someone you know and trust. That's a different type of evil. Either way,
but even then,
you're ready.
If you're well, and again, her business is called Shield Maiden
Tactical.
Yes, and that is, I think, a good play on words. I'm sure she thought of this when she started it, but
Let's see the chat so we can see if
It's
she's
up right
tuning
there.
in. Okay.
Again, the Shield Maiden tactical. The Shield Maiden was the spouse of the Viking.
Yep. And they were warriors in battle,
Yeah.
just like the men.
The Shield Maidens were. They were female companions, or I don't know, whatever you say, but they were. But anyways, yeah, it's good. It's good to think about that. Most assaults, usually happen in parking lots or in your driveway in the place. And that is a huge thing. How scary it must have been where you've got your children. You had 2 of them.
Yeah.
And, they totally rely on you to get home from that crazy Walmart. And that is the craziest one. It's yeah, that one's insane.
It is. And I think they know it is. They've tried to put more lights underneath there, but the parking structure and the entrance are all at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And it is a place where you'll see a broken down motorhome or mm-hmm. vehicles, and people are living in them. Mm-hmm. And, I pray for those people. I don't want anything bad to ever happen to them. But it's no surprise that being in a parking lot near a grocery store would be a prime place to get a couple dollars off of someone. It's just, it's prime for the picking. They're not close to anything over there, mm-hmm. Except businesses, but they're not close to the shelter either. These people have made this their job, is asking for money right there. So it does.
Well, there's that. And also someone wanted to do shady stuff. As soon as they make it outside of those limits of that parking lot, it's dark. They're scot-free. Right. But anyways, the training was great. It was fun. A really good class. The students were very impressive. Yeah.
I think if anyone, male or female, wants to, and this was another reason I wanted to take the class. I've always had firearms, but I just always had a sense of insecurity regarding carrying one. Actually, in my everyday life, I wasn't 100% confident in how to load it, or how many bullets are in my magazine, or what's the best gun for me. It's not going to knock me on my butt shooting it. Just questions just the confidence level of carrying and the responsibility that's attached to it. That is a huge responsibility when you decide to carry. And anybody that doesn't recognize that should never carry. And I say that because, it can take a life. It could take your life. Your own gun could kill you if you are not confident, and ready. So, and you don't have to pull it. When it's time, if you have, I've done the 411s, but not Grantsville.
Okay.
When the time comes, if ever you have to use it, then you want to be confident. And so, there might be guys who carry, but would love to know, if they want to brush up on their skills. I mean, I've seen some incredible skill come out of people that I had no idea. Mr. Humble over here, sure, I'll take the class with you. It sounds like fun. And then he goes and blows everyone away in the class, no pun intended, by just having these excellent reaction skills, memory skills on how to handle the safety of a firearm, just that zoom in and focus. It was really impressive, but also there were so many aspects to the class that I left feeling so much more confident. And now I feel really great knowing that I have that protection.
It's good. And I would propose you should take a class like this, because this isn't just a beginner's class. This is a refresher training. This is And it's not just about the shooting. It's also about what to say before and after, and kind of technically during a situation where you may have to defend yourself, to make sure that you follow procedures that, one, try to de-escalate the situation, but also, if the unfortunate conclusion does happen, you have followed a process that will allow you to remain a free human being.
Right. And de-escalate, being firm with your words. You want to just de-escalate. Everything always is focused on not having to fire that weapon.
Yeah, that's the ideal point is that. And so I would suggest anyone takes this course once a year.
Yeah.
You know?
And then take different courses or take from different people.
Of course, yes.
I would love anybody that wants to do the next Shield Maidens class. I plan on taking that one again. And if anyone wants to reach out, I would love you to join us. Just male or female, like I said, but to my ladies out there, the friends that went with me to that class are totally different women after having that class. I mean, just their confidence has changed. It just kind of takes a little bit. We always have to have our fear, our fear turned on somewhere, not necessarily fear, I guess, but our intuition, our instincts, that always has to be there. But again, when you level the playing field, when you have somebody 6'4" and somebody 5'3", it's an unfair advantage until that person who's 5'3" is armed.
Yeah.
If the intentions of the person who's 6'4" is to hurt.
100%.
And I didn't know, that we'd get into talking about this so much, but being in Tooele County, where we are highly known for being the most armed county in the United States, we always fall in the top 2 or 3. I think we are with Alaska at times, but
so after my boating trip,
right, with the boating accident,
we may have fallen off that map.
So many of us had severe boating accidents where our weapons were all lost.
It happens. It happens.
But I keep my slingshot close because the ATF hasn't banned those yet, have they?
They just heard you say it. My goodness. But no, it's seriously, I want everyone to carry. And I want everyone to pursue some type of training so that when everyone carries, imagine how polite that world will be.
Well, and again, certain people shouldn't, people who are quick to anger and people know who they are.
Well, I hope they pursue training so that they can get over that and then carry.
Training is key.
It is. And learning self-control.
Which is also difficult. But I think the younger you learn and the more normal it is in your life to understand this is a tool and that this is a dangerous, deadly tool if used incorrectly or for the wrong reasons. It's not to be played with. It's never to be used, to hurt someone ever. It's mainly a tool used for defense and for practice and to improve your skill with that tool. I think the younger you learn that, there's more respect kids would have for guns, and the less likely they are to use them at a young age against a classmate. Because again, people are terrified of guns because of what happens in our country now, more than we'd like to ever imagine. But a lot of times I think these kids don't understand the danger that can come from this weapon. They're trying to get back at people or whatever their reason is. They could do it with any other tool as well.
Yeah, I think it's a lack of good home life that leads to those outcomes.
Yeah, I think a lot of crime is exactly the answer. I've been watching on Netflix, I Am a Stalker, which, I've had a couple days down, so I've had to binge watch I Am a Stalker and I Am a Killer. Mm-hmm. And it's, my husband made the comment during one of the shows or episodes that he caught, and he thought, most of these people grow up, their childhoods are so terrible. Mm-hmm. There's usually abuse. There's usually
broken
poverty
parents
and no dad in the house.
Yeah.
And yet these are not excuses, because I know more than a few who have lived through childhoods that are absolutely
100%
abhorrent.
You just don't often, sometimes you do, but you don't often see those behaviors out of an intact family.
Right. But I know people who have come out of really, really crappy childhoods and have gone on to be the greatest citizen in the world. They become better parents because their parents were not a good example. They started to set the example. So it's not necessarily an excuse, but there are some of these cases where it was like, this kid had no shot. I mean, abuse from parents, and then abandoned, and then put into foster care, and then abuse in foster care, and then joining a gang early. And now the example of a gang. And
I think the gang king thing comes from a fatherless home.
Right.
Because they're looking for young men will seek out male role models.
And a family.
Yeah.
And what's sad to me is, it's the kids it's the people, the adults that make it alive and do better with their lives that are, to me, that they're the Cinderella story. Yes. But those that are incarcerated, if you look at the percentage of people incarcerated, males or females, a healthy father figure in their lives could go a long way, a long way. Mm-hmm. And that's rich or poor, religious or not, just having a father figure there to tell them they're good enough, that they're important, that they're capable of more.
Not just that, but a healthy father figure teaches them that level of responsibility that only a father can teach. Mothers have a certain category in life that they naturally teach, and fathers have a different.
Right. Well, as much as I praise women who have to be father and mother in their households, having a brother that is a good example to your children, that comes around and a male figure, it doesn't have to be a spouse, but a male figure that will sit down a daughter or a son and help them build goals that helps them build their own self-esteem. And in the meantime, reinforcing that, as a daughter who had the best father in the world, I don't recall per se what my dad did that made me like myself. But, my mother all the time would praise me. My father was a tougher because he wasn't a lovey-dovey, oh, I love you, and hugs and all that. But
when you succeeded, his praise meant
everything.
The most. And
when I did something wrong, his disappointment meant so much.
So your mom was a steady pole to lean on, but your father was a foundation to cling to.
And I was lucky. My parents were divorced, but they were both my mother was always my rock, always. And she was unconditional, always. Not that my father had conditions, not at all. But because I didn't get to live with him after I was 7, I visited him every other weekend. And the time I spent with him was quality, not quantity. Mm-hmm. He didn't have to deal with me day to day and clean up your room and do this and do this. My mother had to discipline me, whereas my father didn't discipline me. But I also had brothers that were giving him plenty of stuff to work on. So he was busy all the time. But I think he just always, I think his praise it just was enough for him to say, wow, great job. it just was like, yeah. Whereas my mother was the one saying, I was the one bouncing off the wall. Should I try this? Should I do this? Oh, you should. Oh, I'm so proud of you. My mother was always like that. And I mean, I was a good kid and I worked really hard to be a good kid, but I think your self-esteem comes from your parents in the beginning. Does. And then once you discover that you have the ability to create goals for yourself and accomplish them, I think you then start driving your own self-esteem train.
They also give you the example for the kickoff.
Sure.
They give you the example of, I mean, all through your life, even nowadays, I think to myself, on any task I do, how would my father approach this? Or my grandfather was also a big impact on my childhood. How would he approach this? What would he think about my decision here and there?
Yeah.
But
it's the voice you hear in your head.
It is.
Whose voice do you hear in your head through certain situations? I always hear my mother's voice. I always hear my dad's voice when I'm thinking something through, what would they say? And you're right. I think that comes from a foundation very, very young. Mm-hmm. And I feel so bad for the kids that don't have that. And I think now more than ever, we are creating these young adults that are going to take over our government someday, our businesses someday, the ethical running of certain businesses, certain technologies, science, and
the bank,
everything. And when we look at our society now and the young people in our society, we can't discount them. And if we could accomplish any goal, at least with what I do in the party and in my own community, when I get an opportunity, is I just want to educate them and not educate them on a certain topic with an agenda. I try to make the young people learn how to critically think for themselves based on, for example, the Constitution. Whit Cook, who he's our director of Patriot Camp, which, by the way, we are having one this summer. So
tell us about this Patriot Camp.
Patriot Camp, and I'm his assistant director because I do not have enough jobs. I believe in this with my whole heart. Patriot Camp is a nonpartisan. There's no party involvement whatsoever. It's 5 days of kids getting to know the Constitution of the United States, the founding of the nation, and the Declaration of Independence, and some stories about what happened leading up to the Revolutionary War, the creating a document. I mean, if you think about it, clear back then, there was a room of 56 people at the Constitutional Convention building this document, and they were all in there. And of course, they disagreed on so many levels, but all of them were in there to achieve one thing, and that was a free country. And that was at what risk, mostly, if they didn't do this right, they'd all be hanged.
Yeah.
I mean, their lives would be over.
It's not just a free country. They sought out to design a system with as small a government to make it work.
Right.
As small as it could be. Now,
with
we have
power in the hands of the people.
Yeah. That you are individual. See, it's the culmination of, trigger warning everyone, of liberal ideals. The individual ideals. Now, I know liberal has a different meaning now, but it's the culmination of the liberal ideals, the ideal that life, liberty, and it was
the thing. Finish.
It was life, liberty, and property.
You sounded like our president there for a sec. Life, liberty, and the thing.
The thing. No, it originally was life, liberty, and property, but that was kind of drummed out, from my understanding, by the Hamilton camp. But and it became life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, because Hamilton was, whether you like him or not, he was just a monarchist, and he did not want to honor property so sternly within the Constitution?
Well,
Because property, and I'm just telling everyone right now, basic rights. The only successful nations for the individual on earth are rooted in property rights.
that is true.
you
You have
can
your own
drop a
home
period.
turf, and you have your own items that no one can take from you. Fred, so hi, Fred.
What did Fred ask us? Read it out.
Was your ears twitching because you thought we were talking about you? Welcome to the show.
Fred said, please give me the dates of the Patreon camp. What age is the best for the camp?
So this is so exciting. Thanks to the Utah Motorsports Campus, they are our major sponsor. They have welcomed us with open arms, and we are just working on the dates. We're shooting for the first week in June, and so that your kids are getting out of school and they're still used to the routine of getting up early and spending. It usually goes from 8:30 in the morning.
Their butts still have
till
a good
12:30.
callus on it.
Yeah. And we put them in rotations. They learn music. And actually at the end of camp or during camp, they take little tests to pass off their knowledge of certain things like the preamble to the Constitution, to the Declaration. And they get awards at the end of the camp. Their parents come. Every day we have, last year, in fact, Fred, we had the Sheriff's Department come out and be our flag
Color guard.
Right. And then Sheriff Wimmer talked to the kids. And our number one goal is to feed information and get their minds going. And I like to do games with my BF Ashley as my partner, and we do games. And the games for the first day was we had rented the ship, the big pirate ship you see for parties.
Yeah.
And
From what is it? The organization Pirates.
I'm not sure, and I feel bad not giving a shout out, but I'd love to do.
But the group, we need to give them shout outs more often because they do anti-bullying stuff. They do a lot of stuff.
Well, they were really great.
They are.
And previously, before Whit got involved, I had done a Patriot camp as the games person also. Ages can go from 6, I think we take 6 years old. They got to be able to sit down for short periods of time and listen. And then we go from any age, and then at a certain age, like 14, 15, we start getting camp leaders. So they'd be group leaders, which are our teenagers, and they help us with the kids in their specific groups. And they also learn to do all these things and pass them off. And this year we're going to do something different where we will select like ambassadors and allow them. I mean, they can use this on a resume eventually for working at this camp and working with these kids. And we should have Whit on, invite Whit Cook and I, because Whit is the director of this. And we had such a great turnout last year and the years prior where I'd participated with another one. And we started off big kickoff in my department, which was games. We had the pirate ship, and we had hidden these things all around the pirate ship. And we started out with the story of the Boston Tea Party and how we meet in a pub and we hash out our plan.
The Green Dragon.
And we hash out our plan, and we're going to disguise ourselves as Native Americans. So they think that it's not us, and then, we pick a general and somebody that's going to run the mission. And this team gets to sneak onto this pirate ship where they throw the tea off the ship. What's funny is when we get done with that little role play and fun, and we sit down and we talk about, why would they want to dress up as Native Americans? Well, because they didn't want them to think it was the Brothers of the Revolution. I mean, you had to stay under dark because you would be shot and killed for treason. I mean, that was a real thing. And the kids had a blast just throwing stuff off a pirate ship and jumping and climbing around on it.
Just the pirate ship being there.
Yes. And then, other days, Benjamin Franklin comes and speaks to them, and he's in full garb. One of the others was they had a printing press. One of the originals built, the gentleman had built an original style printing press, and they could print the Declaration of Independence in front of these kids. And we're talking this old style woodwork with the hinges connected, and how it just takes, there's so much, talent required to make something like that. This isn't like IKEA where it clicks together. This is old school. And these kids get to see the printing press in action, and they get to print. There's art. We have snacks for them midway through. They have a lot of fun. And thanks to the Utah Motorsports Campus, they've agreed to be our partner and our main sponsor. We always look for sponsors. They all get T-shirts that they wear to camp every day. We always do an honor guard, and we do the anthem, and your child learns the anthem and the pledge. And our focus is so much on just the founding. And, sometimes we get a lot of kids who participate that are homeschooled, and they are phenomenal at what they know in history.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're not. Our public schools are too busy teaching other stuff too.
I agree. And so
to dive into civics.
My greatest thing is that with at my kids' school, I've already spoken with the principal of the junior high who's ready to advertise this to the kids and get them excited. We may have 2 camps. And eventually we're going to build on that. And this is part of Whit's dream. And so I feel bad kind of
still
bragging all about it, because I would love for Whit to be here and talk about it once we get our dates set. We're shooting for the first week in June, which so far looks good. Just I'm getting scheduling done with the racetrack, and parents just drop off, pick up, or the actual price for the camp. We still haven't gotten a set number, but once we get that, any parent that wants to volunteer, they get a percentage off of the camp. So they get to participate. They're not paying full price for the camp, and their kids there with them. And I'll tell you, so many parents have come up to me or Ashley when we're doing our games, and they're just like, the stuff my kid comes home with is, because I do try to teach self-esteem there. I do try to explain civics. We had the mayor, we had Debbie Wynn come. We had some of our county councilmen come and teach the kids. And I think that civics is such a big deal. And I think the sheriff is the favorite because, they love police officers at that age.
And Wimmer's an impressive guy. He's an
kids
impressive
don't
guy.
Realize.
Well, no, he's an impressive guy in his stature and his attitude.
Yeah.
He's got an attitude, especially, the law enforcement background has a different, they carry themselves different.
Right. Well, and uniforms are cool, and they get to see these guys, and I like your style, Fred.
Yeah. Fred says he'll pay whatever. Fred says he's going to sign himself up and his grandkids.
Fred, you should come and volunteer. I think it would be fun.
Fred would be an asset. He is Fred is a very cool dude, and also deputy sheriff. So
right, and when the sheriff came out, kids are going to get bored, and Sheriff Wimmer's like, "How long am I supposed to talk?" And the beauty of it is these kids, the whole intent of this camp is not to bore them; it's to inspire them, and so. Yeah, when they're staring at a bunch of, I think we had 6 there on the color guard that the sheriff had put together for us. And I said, well, now you should actually keep that color guard all the time, because at UMC, we're always looking for a color guard or something. And he's like, are you kidding me?
You need to have them bring the MRAP they've got now.
That's probably on the list.
I saw that yesterday driving down Main Street.
I love that thing.
Kids would climb all over that. But okay, we do have to get on to some of the show tonight. So I'm going to round this up by asking, and I hope this isn't contentious, but this is a program that's run by Republicans and kind of geared towards the patriotic Republicans. Give a pitch to our 1 or 2 Democrat or undecided listeners on the benefits of them signing their children up.
Now, again, I have to stop you.
I know
this is not a program run by Republicans.
I know,
per se.
but we're in the current culture.
Okay, at this camp,
So what will this do?
everyone is.
Why would a Democrat parent or an independent parent or a,
Why would anyone sign their kid up?
but not, I mean, I would sign my kid up in a heartbeat. He's 28 and a neck beard now. So, I mean, that's a little out of the range, but
You know what?
what's the sell you have for them? I have a couple listeners on here that I communicate with that tend to give me a lot of flack thinking that I'm some weirdo, but
Here's why. Well,
okay,
I'll
lay it
answer.
out.
No matter how you vote, the founding of the nation is important to know for all of us. And what we try to teach there, there was no such thing as Republicans when the founding of this nation happened. There was a republic, and what that republic means. And what we try to do is teach your child their individual value, how important they are to this world and to this nation. And we try to teach them that how important their voice is, and they are the boss of their government. That was the intent. And if you're a Democrat family, your voice is just as important as someone that's a Republican. If you're an independent, I think you would actually value the fact that the intent of this camp is to teach kids just the basic fundamentals of the founding and what those founders had to lose by even starting a nation on their own to tear themselves away from the king, and at what they had to lose, their lives, their kids' lives, like their future was all. And if you're somebody who doesn't believe in God, this may not be a camp for you, because I think that we do follow the founders in their divine inspiration of the documents created that were their journals were published. We know that Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, discussing the write-up of the Declaration of Independence. I mean, Jefferson said when the document was finished, I didn't realize how much and what all I had written, but I knew that it was divine inspiration that gave me courage, because what he wrote in that document was unheard of in its time. And even in the document where it said all men are created equal, there was a time when first vice president John Adams, when he approached this,
his rotundity,
he said, all men are created equal. Are you kidding me? Like, this isn't going to fly. You have to remove that. And even Ben Franklin just at the same time was, you know what, this is it. And Thomas Jefferson was adamant, I will not remove that. I will not remove any of this, because our goal is freedom for all men. And that was not the time, especially, I mean, to think about it, it wasn't the time for it to be there, but he said eventually this is where it goes.
The pop quiz?
Of course I do.
Pop quiz for you, then we got to move on to talk about a little bit of the show. Why did Jefferson not free his slaves? One, most of them were inherited, but why did he not free them?
It was illegal.
Why was it illegal?
You tell me.
Because he was in debt.
Oh, right. They were property.
In the province of Virginia, he could not release his property because Monticello had put him in debt.
I did know that. It was
all right.
Again, with the property rights back then.
Property is the most important, but the in debt part is he could sell them to pay off his debt. They saw it. But he did not want to sell them because apparently he was worried that they would have a different treatment than the one he provided.
When it comes to doing a camp for your kids, This one, we try to teach self-esteem and teamwork. There's lots of kids there that are from all different places. My kids were some of the only on their teams that were actually in public school. A lot were homeschooled kids. These homeschool kids, I was blown away at the network of homeschooling we have in this county. If I wasn't freaked out by the idea, I even considered homeschooling my kids, but I think that I think there are better people out there to teach mine. But at Patriot Camp, the only thing is it just teaches you about the nation that we live in. And so we don't teach shame for anyone. We teach that the nation is divinely inspired and that it's worth protecting, and that we are individuals capable of great things if the government isn't standing on our neck. And we don't talk about current politics. We don't talk about parties. If anything, we talk about George Washington's speech where he wanted to leave the office because he wanted to show that I am not a king and others will follow if I do this. And he actually said, do not get wrapped up in this two-party system or you will hurt the nation that we built.
Lose your way and the government will no longer represent the people.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
and you're right. Can I lay a message out to him?
sure.
And the person that I'm most thinking of when I say this, if you're listening to this, you know who you are, but I would suggest you send your kids to it. And I'd suggest that you sign up to to help out, because I am a firm believer that we do need the right and the left of organization to make a nation run good. You need the push and the pull.
Can I just say something that I know we're going to get onto other topics, and this kind of goes along with it, that Tucker Carlson put out his video evidence regarding January 6th. I mean, I'm just jumping in full bore here.
That's where we're headed anyway.
And watching that video, I was thrown back to remembering the day, January 6th, when I was watching it on the news, like I had said, and I was watching live how they were walking through, and they weren't knocking things over. They were parading through, but most of them had their cameras out and were taking pictures of the people's house. So the one thing that struck me was, first of all, why is every Republican, every Democrat, every independent, why are they not just angry today at the lie perpetrated by the government? When I say that, I don't mean to say or discount the unlawful rioting or vandalism or attacks on law enforcement. I do not. I know that happened. I'm not saying that didn't happen. But we were also fed a lot of stuff that was inaccurate. When he put that out, it just really made me angry. At the end of it all, though, I thought, my neighbor who is a Democrat or my neighbor who is an independent should be just as pissed as me. Because what I've learned is the government is screwing us all. And I hate to be, negative, but the reason we're all divided into these camps is by design. That when we can take the D or the R or the I off of our name and just be Americans, to where we're not in any special group at all, but we just are neighbors and we're friends or we're family, and just realize that what's going on there should not ruin who we are here. Our community should be strong together, because separating us is what makes the division so much more intense, with violence and with hate or hate speech, where people can't even be friends on Facebook because they politically disagree, yet they have 80% that they agree on, which involves how you raise your children, what your faith may be, what you want for your kids' education, what you want for their futures. Most of the stuff we all want.
Things that actually touch your life often.
Right.
Whereas it feels like the government has us separated, and there's a lot of memes about it. Teach the torch people to the pitchfork people. want to take away the torches,
It's true.
but they get us fighting over things that are non-starters or absurd, that they're things that are taken up on a government, on especially a national government stature.
Right. I mean, I know my congressman. I know how to contact him. I know how to talk to my county council. I know my sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that as a community, even if we just are at the county level, if we all just engaged with those individuals, by just showing up to meetings where they're there and introducing yourself, regardless of your party, because they represent all of us. Their party affiliation may be the way they feel about budgets, or maybe the way they feel about legislation on certain issues. Yes. But the one thing that helps government get bigger and more bloated is division among the people. And at the end of the day, if we could just stop with the anger or the triggering or being triggered and just thought it through for a second, just think it through. Is this something that is going to make our community stronger, or is there a reason we're fighting here? I mean, is there something being dangled over here so that we miss what's happening over here? That's always in the back of my mind, and I don't take it lightly. I am a strong believer in the platform of the party that I represent. I'm a strong believer in it, but I believe in the individual spirit, and I believe in families, and I believe that regardless of who you are just as valid as anyone else. And the government may not, they see us as clusters that are fitting in certain boxes that they can turn on each other at any moment and to their benefit. So it's something that I think people should consider in everything they do. Mm-hmm. And teaching our kids to critical think, not what to think, but to critically think for themselves, I think is one of the best gifts you can give them, because they won't be sheep and led astray as easily when they get their own foundation and their own beliefs and understanding into who they are and who their parents are and what their parents, how the community loves them and embraces them. And we just need to remember that we're all Americans first.
My turn to argue about January 6th.
Okay.
Here's what I'm pissed off about, is that they've held people for a year and a half to render a charge or a conviction. And it sounds like with Brady violations out the ass in all these convictions. What a Brady violation is that
the prosecution must share
withheld evidence. The government has withheld evidence. It's looking like we'll find out if anything comes to pass on that. But for a year and a half,
under the guise of national security,
I don't give a shit.
Right.
If you're going to try someone, we need to be a country that respects due process. Period. End of discussion. We need to respect that right on every level. But they've held them for a year and a half to render misdemeanor trespassing charges and a couple of delay of official proceedings or stopping official proceedings charges.
Or inciting a riot.
None of that. There has been no inciting a riot charge.
Oh, yeah. That's the gentleman that never got arrested, who was bragging all about.
Wouldn't you know? Anyways, that is the thing I don't like, because we have a right to quick proceedings and due process, and they're breaking those. But, if you're a Democrat right now, it's the other side getting it. Right now, I see this just as, if anyone's familiar with the 60s, this is what was done during the 60s to anti-war demonstrators is in the same process, where they disrupt due process. They disrupt all that stuff to get their way. But that's just my thoughts on it. I do believe that everyone that went in there should be in trouble, whatever. I don't think 4 years is a proper punishment for trespass.
Well, in real life, you'd be given a citation
Maybe.
and a fine.
Maybe.
And here's the thing, the summer of love in 2020.
Yeah.
How many were
we're not
arrested
supposed to
then?
talk about that. We're not supposed to talk about 529. We're not supposed to talk about that.
Well, how many people were arrested?
Yeah.
And then how many people were bailed out that same day?
How about those lawyers in New York that Molotov cocktail a police car?
I didn't
They're
know they
both
found
out.
them. But
They got like 6 months and they got off early. They got 6 months and disbarred. They got let out after weeks and got to carry on with their license.
well, and if anyone remembers when Kavanaugh was getting sworn in, there were people that were rioting or protesting violently in front of the Supreme Court. And remember the big thing where they made fun of Trump because the security was protecting him
529
when
they lit the church
on fire.
Yeah, but I'm not even trying to play the tit for tat game. I'm just saying, look,
I'd still be fighting for those people if it was them.
We want basic
under the jail
due process. That's what we want. We demand it. It's written into our DNA. And if we lose that, what do we have? They can just come and pick you up, Guantanamo your ass for whatever. But hey, you want to spread the Patriot Act around to the judicial department as well? Go ahead. Let's go on to another subject.
Are you getting angry?
That was our trigger warning for that. Look, January 6th, it's coming out as bullshit. Veritas is releasing stuff that makes Tucker stuff look not as explosive. I still think Tucker stuff is explosive, but Veritas has some.
I take Tucker's stuff with a grain of salt as well. I don't believe everything that Tucker says doesn't have an agenda as well, but I think he came out the way he did because he had to prove a point.
I think he's been handling it well too.
Yes, that this is what you've been shoved down your throat for 2 years. And here's what they forgot to mention conveniently. And I think that once we look at it on face value, I just want to say, just take the blinders off and realize your government is not on your side. They've lied to us on so many occasions that's where our involvement in politics and everything should be so focused on our local politics. And that's where our power actually shows itself.
100%.
You will run into your sheriff or your county councilman in the grocery store, and they want to do good for you. They're your neighbors. Their kids are at school with your kids, etc. This is the last thing they want, is to be having their community in chaos. So
yeah,
that's why local politics should be something that you're engaged in. And that leads me to a little segue, which is the Tooele County Republican Party. We are having our convention on April 13th. You want to come?
Of course.
Okay. Well, we've invited all of our county delegates come. We have elections happening for the party leadership team. So I will be running for chair of the party again. And the vice chair, the secretary, the treasurer, as well as 2 seats on the SCC. We have 2 seats. That everyone that votes there is our county delegates, which were selected by our party during caucus of last year. And we invite the community to come. We're going to have our electeds come and give speeches. We'll have a reception starting early so that if you'd like to come and talk to them, we want you involved with the community. And we want to make sure that, if you have a question for a senator or for, one of the councilmen, the county clerk, elections, is there election integrity? What do you think? How do you feel about in-person voting, or do you like mail-in voting? This is an opportunity for you to get face-to-face with people. And, I ask that you are kind and a reasonable, person, but you don't have to be a Republican to participate. You can't vote. And we have state delegates are invited. We have our central committee invited, and the only people that can vote is the county delegates. That is their job, actually.
Can I make a point on that real quick to the people?
Sure.
Let's say you're a Democrat in Tooele County, and Tooele County is predominantly Republican.
Actually, we're predominantly independents.
Oh, well, okay. I tipped the scale. So, I would say predominantly independent with Republican control. If you want to change the direction of the party, you do it on the local level, your city and your county. There's no way that you can change the momentum of the Utah State Republican Party in any kind of measurable terms. And you definitely can't do it nationally.
As chair, that changed the state of our Utah party.
In the county, you can actually nudge and change it. Mm-hmm. And that's why voting local, I don't vote except for local.
I'm glad you vote locally.
Because you guys are the ones that count. What, the toilet bowl back in D.C.? Doesn't matter to me. It's just dog poop, honestly.
Now I know why we lost the seat. Thank you.
Lost the seat. But no, seriously, I vote local. But I want to have a fun news story. I want to finish it out on Joy.
Oh, I saw this. Is this San Francisco?
I don't know for sure.
Okay, I think this happened in San Francisco.
Read along. Now, first, we've got the big advertisement for, it looks like hydraulic pumps down at the bottom. So you're welcome, everyone.
Not sure what that is.
So this came out on March 19th. And this is, I think this year, the third or fourth story I've read about this. This comes out of Town Hall newspaper, magazine, whatever. CNN crew robbed while reporting on woke cities' rampant crime. And this happens a lot.
Yeah.
A CNN crew was robbed in San Francisco while reporting the city's rampant crime problem. CNN correspondent Kyung La detailed how the crew's rental car was vandalized and their bags stolen, which contained their driver's licenses and passports, while she was conducting an interview for the network.
This is like a crime conglomerate where they can get in and out so quickly. The smash and grabs are so common that people leave their windows open in San Francisco in their vehicles.
They will leave their windows rolled down, all the doors unlocked.
Yeah.
And they have an empty car. Now, this is what happens when you have no punishment for wrongdoing to speak of.
Right.
So these people will go out. Even a lot of times if they murder someone, they're getting cut loose.
I can't imagine living in a city or a county like that, because if there is no punishment, what's to stop anyone? And they've turned this into a business. Like it says in the story here, it took 4 seconds, under 4 seconds. These people have this down so well. Yeah. In Texas, I know of 2 people that have actually had their, is it a carburetor? It's under the truck. Those big trucks, catalytic converters. Sorry. People are stealing catalytic converters. Mm-hmm. And that takes some time. That's not 4 seconds, but that takes some time, to the point where some people are putting like barbed wire under their trucks and
building an encasement cage around their catalytic converter. Yeah. Because
things like that can get done and taken and sold so quickly, and turnaround is...
Well, a catalytic converter's full of precious metals also.
Yeah, there's a market for it.
Yeah, it's precious metals is what they use to normalize the catalyst in the exhaust.
I'm just amazed, that this is a story within a story.
It's hilarious. And I'm not dogging on CNN. I think CNN's doing good work by going out and saying, look, crime is rampant here. Let's go out and talk to people about it. I just think it's hilarious that while they're doing it, they get robbed.
I'm just glad no one got hurt. And I think
Yes.
this is sad when someone can do this. And this is in broad daylight
Yeah.
while they had somebody watching their car. They had security.
Yeah, that's
Didn't they say
watching the rental
watching the
car
rental and the crew
and
car?
the car crew. Thieves did this in under 4 seconds. Security stopped the jerks from stealing other bags. But seriously, this is ridiculous.
And this is the same thing with, you see how many Walmarts are closing their stores in Oregon?
Portland.
And-
Portland is losing its last store. So, okay, so there's the image. They just run up, bang the back window, safety glass everywhere, reach in and grab what they can and go.
It's usually a bag or anything on the back
And
seat.
there's the commitment to your insurance. Boom. Gone.
Well, your passport's gone.
Yeah. And then if they get a bag, whatever they get is gone.
Yeah.
You know?
And this is petty. I mean, if someone's arrested for it, again, this is a smash and grab, petty theft or damage, vandalism,
They
whatever.
get turned around right out on the streets.
And,
If they get caught.
when Walmart said they were closing their stores in Portland, people were saying all kinds of crazy things. But it was like Walmart was saying we just aren't making the money or we don't constitute bull crap. There were so many security issues to where they would literally have to lock up everything in the store.
Yeah, they're losing everything.
Because people were walking out with full grocery carts and there was nothing security could do because the police weren't doing anything.
The police, and
they're banned to do anything by their mayor.
the police are restricted because it's not even the mayor. In most cases, it's a prosecutor. The prosecutor won't try him and has set up these turnaround releases. You know, which is why Beetlejuice, the bass fish, Lori Lightfoot.
You mean the third place loser of the governor race?
Yeah. Lori Lightfoot, which is why she's out, because crime ran away. And what the heck's
You
that?
mean there's crime in Chicago?
And I don't know. I'm talking out my butt on that one. What's that? What's San Francisco's DA's name?
Well, it used to be Kamala Harris.
No,
right?
the new one.
I
She
don't know.
smoked her way to the top on that one. But anyways, what's his name? Anyways, he just survived a recall vote barely. Or no, he got out. But
That sounds like you're all over the place.
this vote, I think he got run out. What was his name? But anyways, the vote was started and driven by the Asian American population there because they've been suffering violent attacks and robbers and the violent attacks, and he's not trying anything on them. So these have been traditional Democrats that switched to the Republican Party and forced a recall.
Thing is anybody, is it Brooke Jenkins?
No, look at the one before them.
The recall.
Recall election.
Bowden?
Yeah, Bodine.
Oh, Bodine. There's no E.
Maybe.
I think when the people get angry, you look at San Francisco too. It used to be one of the most beautiful cities ever. I loved San Francisco. I think I told you, my brothers and dad and I would go to see the Raiders play in Oakland, and we would stay in San Francisco because Oakland was pretty scary, right?
Well, now Oakland's a place to go to.
Yeah. Now what's the difference? And what's sad is it's these policies of, and I'm not saying Democrat policies, I'm saying far left policies that have made so people who owned homes could no longer afford them. They were so priced out of homes. Then you get this huge homeless population. You have a number
it's
of
not the far left policies that priced them out of homes. It's the tech boom that priced them out.
well, you got
They didn't
homelessness.
help with their restrictions on the supply side of allowing new homes to be built to cause some pressure on that market. They definitely didn't help out with that. But the thing that's killing them with the crime is that they refuse to prosecute.
They can't afford it. They're paying somebody, I think the budget's $5 million just to clean up human feces.
Well, have you heard about their new thing?
What? And they have a severe problem with undocumented immigrants.
Sure. Have you heard about their new thing?
And they're trying, reparations. They're trying to give $5 million
In
every.
reparations. They want to give houses out to people for $1 in a market that is notoriously heinous for trying to find a house.
Do you know that the insanity of this is
I want
laughable?
them to do it. I want them to do it. This will be, look, Mark Twain once said, or no, let's go with Einstein's quote that is, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. They are leaning into that.
They're there.
And Mark Twain said, well, my favorite quote is never argue with their idiots. They'll drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. That is my favorite quote. But
Okay, in San Francisco, the reparations thing, they recommended $5 million. They created this fund that they asked businesses to put in money towards giving reparations to Black Americans, and $5 million a piece. And that there's 40,000.
it's better.
They
than
mentioned 40,000 Black Americans. Hold on. So
that.
they
You don't even have to be
create
Black
this.
American. You just have to say you are.
You just have to what? You just have to identify, right?
That chick who now does OnlyFans, who led the NAACP wherever.
Rachel
Rachel Dolezal.
Yeah.
She could get it.
Right. But here's the thing. They made this fund.
So I'm going to
and
San
they
Francisco.
Sent it to these businesses and said, if you're a woke business and you believe that reparations is something that people should have, then you need to donate to this fund. And luckily it wasn't a demand, but then you can advertise the fact that you're donating to this fund, right? How much money do you think is in that fund?
How much?
Yes. Like every business in San Francisco was offered this fund, and they were all told it's $5 million will go to each, which just 5 million times 40,000, which was their roundup figure, which by the way, they didn't say how you would
5
apply
million
for it.
Divided by 40,000. How many businesses donated an amount? I would guess that we're looking at probably 25 or 250,000, 300,000, probably around there.
0.
Nobody donated.
Nobody donated. These are businesses that probably love to tell you how much they are on your side. And I mean, this is the city of what's his name? The take a knee. What's his name?
Kaepernick.
They donate nothing, because now if they make a law or something, who's to say those businesses would stay in San Francisco? That's why it didn't become a law, I guarantee.
Everyone's leaving California. I mean, Oracle's out. Toyota left.
Tesla's
Nissan
out.
left. Tesla left. Joe Rogan left. Everyone's leaving.
Why? I wonder.
It's the tax, it's the regulation, it's the inability to start a business. Adam Carolla made the best point. You know who Carroll Shelby is? Mm-mm. You better know who Carroll Shelby is.
I probably do.
Well, you know how it says Shelby on the Mustangs?
Oh, geez, yes.
Okay. He left in the 60s. He left Texas to build cars in California because, again, the pendulum had swung. The Texas conservatives was a harder market to start a business in. So he went to California, where it was an easier market to start a business
in. It was a liberal market, right?
Yeah. It's all
like more liberal thinking.
Everything with politics is pendulum swinging. That's the first thing you need to understand.
Well, and liberal's not a bad word. It used to not be a bad word. Now people are accused of being liberal when really they don't understand the meaning of it.
Yes.
Liberals aren't bad people, especially genuine liberals.
That is true. That is true. But anyways, so, and nowadays it's the exact opposite. They have regulated themselves out of an innovative and future and forward thinking market, and Texas has reversed. So they're all running to Texas, to Tennessee, here to Utah. Oracle came to Utah. they're all leaving. One thing that may salvage some of the businesses staying there, like Google and
Google just laid off 30,000 employees by email. Some
Sure.
have been there for a decade.
Sure. And I mean, that's the birth of this AI and stuff, things that can be automated. But the things that'll keep them there is that if they can have remote work, then that'll keep a headquarters there and everyone's scattered across the country working. But any business that builds something is leaving.
Yeah. Well, they tried to fine people for leaving. Did you see that in California?
They did. They wanted to make it a requirement that they still pay California tax for 10 years.
Yeah, which is insane.
It's hilarious.
That's tyranny.
It's fantastic. I love it. But if you look at it, in 40 years, in 40 years, you meet up with whoever else is still alive that can come and chat on this, because I'd hate to see what I look like in 40 years, but you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But
I'll be
you meet
dead
up
in
with
40
them.
years.
You meet up with them. I know you can drag my casket out. I give you permission.
If I'm dead, I can't.
But and talk about it, and I promise you, California will have gone through a rebirth like Texas did, kicking off in the late 90s.
If it doesn't have a wall around it, and
Okay.
it's now part of Mexico.
If there's not a civil war, and we start trading lead with each other.
Yeah, the national divorce.
Yeah.
In Texas they've got someone put a bill out on their legislature. Would they only meet every other year?
Every other year, yeah, but
And
they also meet for twice as long. But Texas has put this calling Texas separation. It's been every session for the last, I think, 11 years. They actually have a Texas party.
Right. And
Texas Independence Party.
I think why it made news this time is because when they were polling citizens, they had a higher rate of people that wanted it than normal. But I don't think constitutionally it's possible.
Why not?
I'm not sure.
We're a voluntary republic. At least we were until, the great emancipator, tyrant in chief changed that.
I'm curious why then the counties in Oregon that wanted to be part of Idaho were not able to leave.
There's a difference between the federal constitution and the state constitution.
Right. But Idaho was okay with it. They were ready to take them.
Great with it.
And I thought that Oregon considered it. But they said legally it's not possible.
Oregon probably didn't want to do it because they would lose congressional seats.
Right. But I think they would also lose
Idaho
out of
would
those
gain
votes.
Congressional seats. And they were going to lose the one group of people who's tied there, farmers tied to the land.
Well, the money they'd lose alone for their state would just be astronomical.
But anyway, but to round this out, I can't imagine a voluntary republic would make it so that you can't voluntarily leave. That just sounds ridiculous to me.
But then what? You've got this little country in the middle of the United States, Texas.
Sure.
The Republic of Texas.
Sure.
That we trade with
three
and everything.
major international ports on it. Sure. It would be, but it's not about them leaving. It's about the threat that this nation as a whole had better be a prosperous
It
engagement.
left them. Right. It's got to be worth their
It's got to be a prosperous engagement.
And
We can't keep supporting your crazy notions one way or the other.
well, you know what? I hate to see it happen. I mean, I love Texas, and I'd hate to get a passport to go visit my brother there, but part of me would like to see what would happen. California has tremendous resources, and if they wanted to be their own country, which they wouldn't,
Actually, that was argued when
debts, right?
In 2016, when Trump ran, there was a big movement in California to separate. And then again, in the buildup to 2020, it was it Schumer? My favorite senator of all time that I think, was it Schumer that was saying that California should propose to secede from the nation if
Schumer's
Trump
in
wins
New York,
again?
right?
I think it was Schumer said that in an interview in California. It may not have been Schumer. Schumer's on my mind because I'm studying up for a show on Waco.
Oh, did you watch that show on Netflix?
I'm going deep.
You're going to go in the rabbit hole?
Yeah. Well, I've been in the rabbit hole plenty of times, but Schumer was the flag waver for the ATF. How do I say this? The unconstitutional, cursed gaggle agency that needs to disappear like yesterday.
I mean, they certainly have seized power very quickly, which doesn't seem legal to me at all.
I haven't seen a time when the ATF was constitutional or legal ever.
Were they around for Prohibition, or were they created because of it?
They were created, I think, 72.
Okay, so I don't know. I saw one report where an ATF agent gave somebody a ticket for jaywalking. I'm like, how?
Well,
that's like
lucky.
me giving you a ticket for jaywalking.
Usually the ATF storms up, shoots a dog, shoots a kid, shoots a mother nursing a child, and then, trips, sprains an ankle, calls in the FBI to call the HRT team in to, do some more mass killing and light fires.
Okay, I haven't seen that movie.
That's their traditional mode of conduct.
I think like the FBI, I don't think the agents are bad. I hope they're not. I mean, my father was a part of the
few
ATF
that are definitely bad.
But I think it's the leadership, and it's the agenda behind the leadership that trickles down into the agents and what their expectations are. That, like the FBI, you have to shake your head because there's no checks and balances on these individual groups.
I think forget how Waco was started on fire. Doesn't matter how. I don't give a shit how. But when it burns down, 74 people are incinerated, including infants.
Yeah.
And you pose in front of the rubble, you're bad.
Like you did something good.
They did that.
Like what you did was good.
After it was over, they took down the flag that they had in front of Waco, and the ATF ran its flag up on the petard.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So the ATF, I don't care what you do.
What was the name of the lady that was the DOJ at the time?
Oh.
And she came out and...
Lady? I forget her name off the top of my head, but I'll remember in a minute.
I just spaced it.
Yeah.
It was under Clinton.
Yes. Yeah, she went to, I believe, New Jersey to give a talk the day that they were raiding it.
And she wasn't even on the ground, right? Not yet.
No.
But she made the call.
Yeah. It was the sheriff there that was trying to talk the ATF down and the FBI. Of course, the FBI parked a tank on the escape hatch to the bunker, and then
Reno.
Yeah, Reno. And then they used paint thinner as the mix for their CS gas, and then wondered, how did it start on fire?
I haven't seen this show on Netflix called Waco, but I saw the little advertisement thing, and it was a sniper,
Lon,
who had what's his name?
Lon, I forget his last name.
No, the cult leader.
Oh, David Koresh.
He had David Koresh in his sights, and he's like, I can end this now, and these people will be alive.
You know what would be better?
But he's saying, and I say, give me the call. We can end this now. Let me take the shot. And they said, no.
Let me tell you what would have been better. Okay, the ATF, man, we're going into my other show. I should hit record for it. The ATF committed this atrocity because they went into Ruby Ridge, and of course,
I remember
the ATF
Ruby
and
Ridge.
the FBI did phenomenal things there, shooting a mother out from underneath her 3-month-old, the things they do. You know what David Koresh did every morning?
What?
Went for a jog.
Oh, yeah.
You know where he jogged?
Well, if you know where he jogged, then what
right past
crazy.
the ATF safe house they rented to. The ATF did this to make a show of it. They called the news crew down. The news crew was there 2 hours before they hit. David Koresh called the sheriff's department before they hit, said, "Hey, what's going on?
Right.
Why is this coming up?" Then the ATF goes to they want to do a breach entry when they didn't even knock on the door. So they send some yahoos up on the roof, right? Well, one of the guys on the roof, when he goes to a break and break on the window and then pull a pistol from his holster, hits the trigger, shoots himself in the leg. So then all the other ATF agents open up on the building.
That's just insanity.
That is the Three Stooges in uniforms.
First of all, I don't want to ever piss off the ATF. But second of all, again, this shows you that the government has lied to you.
That's why I like sheriffs, elected individuals who actually take care of their people.
And they're local. I mean,
Sure.
they are local and responsible, and I mean, they're accountable to those who put them in office. They're not some chosen DOJ person who's at some college giving this great speech to graduates and then making the call to say, breach it, go in and kill the women and children.
They're not guys that are sent down from parts unknown to your local area, which the ATF wants to do this big hit because Congress was threatening to take away 50% of their budget.
Imagine
So they
that.
wanted to prove, hey,
They're relevant.
Yeah. So they drummed up all this shit.
But didn't he have weapons on the compound?
Yeah, they had a legal selling business. They were an FFL. Actually, a guy that lived there had an FFL, and he would tour all the different gun shows selling weapons legally. They had paperwork for every weapon.
Which they considered was a cache of weapons that were gathering for war, according to the ATF.
They kind of dropped that after.
Yeah, well.
And anything that they said they have, there is no evidence from Waco that anyone can go see.
They demolished the building and everything.
And any evidence they took that they reported they took, no one can see it. Congressmen have tried to see it. Senators have tried to see it. It's classified.
That's where Kevin McCarthy releasing this videotape from J6 to me was such a big move. I wasn't sure I wanted Kevin McCarthy to be the Speaker of the House, but I mean, not for any specific reason. I just thought, you know what,
You thought he was business as usual.
Right. I was afraid that he would be more of the same and we couldn't differentiate between the parties, the swamp. But for him to come out right away and then offer it to any news agency that wanted it and then offered it to anyone who wanted it, declassifying those videos and telling the people, you know what, we know the bad that happened. We also know the bad that didn't happen, that you were told happened. It's like Trump wanting to release the JFK stuff and then was quickly told you cannot release it.
He got taken into the smoky room and shown the rest of the video.
I mean,
Yeah.
our government has lied to us in the name of our protection or national security.
It's for your good.
And I don't want to stand here and armchair quarterback a situation, definitely. And I always try to side on the side of law enforcement because they are given a job just like our military. And the people who instruct them and the people who are making those calls, I mean, they are basically the people. I mean, they have to do what they're told unless it's absolutely against ethics and morals and the law. But again, do we need an ATF? And what evidence do we have that proves we need to have an agency, the ATF, in 2023? And what can the FBI? Can't the FBI absorb that division altogether
And
while
then we do
still
away with
cutting
the
the FBI in
FBI.
half?
And do away with the FBI. And then turn it over to sheriff's departments like it's supposed to be.
Well, I mean, the FBI has resources that nationwide can do something a sheriff can't.
Like what?
Well, from one, when you take some, over borders,
Across state lines, U.S.
across
Marshals.
state lines and all of that.
U.S. Marshals.
U.S. Marshals, but that's usually like in kidnapping cases and things. That's when
Sure.
the FBI is called in.
U.S. Marshals can take over all of that. U.S. Marshals have actually shown themselves to be more effective at tracking down people.
Well, again,
Because that's been their job, and they were around in the beginning.
I'm appalled by all of the crimes the FBI has quote unquote stopped, where they actually had FBI agents.
How about Whitmer's case, where there's
Yeah.
18 people and 12 of them are feds.
Like when they've actually gone in
The
and
6 other guys are like low IQ special resource guys.
again, what is this? Is this wag the dog? Like they have to create the
Yeah.
situation so that
Yeah.
American people get so upset or afraid of something. I mean, look at these terror cells.
You don't create something like that with all these special privileges and expect them not to try to. If they have a deficit of need for their budget, they're going to go out and seek that because they don't want to lose their budget. You don't create that and expect it. All right.
That just freaks me out
Yeah.
because
You don't give me an open check to paint your house.
no, but that goes to the military too. And that goes to every department in the government.
Sure.
I mean, the military is the one division that we absolutely should have. Is the government's job is to protect its citizens. Right. And yet since the founding, I think just the agencies alone would floor our founding fathers.
You know, having
Like you've done what?
You know what George Washington would say? He'd say, "You have a standing army."
Yeah.
Because he said, his words, not mine, most dangerous thing to a free society.
Right. Because it's just whoever's wielding it can take
There
over,
you go.
take your
were,
freedom.
We were meant to have National Guards. But anyways, we got to close the show down. I've kept you for an hour and a half. Holly,
I didn't even notice. I'm having fun.
Me too.
I hope people aren't bored, but
thank you so much for coming on.
I love it. Can I come next week too?
Well, we're
Bring a
planning
friend?
on it. Yes.
Can we talk about that?
We have, what would we call it?
Our county councilman.
We have a avalanche of shows next week. I have 3 shows next Friday. Dave will be here. We've got another guy who holds self-defense courses coming on, Todd. We have our county councilman / financial guy. We're going to be chatting banks for all you
The banks
autistic
and
nerds.
how what's going on with the banks affects
we're-
you. And
And we're going to get a checkup on the county, obviously.
yes,
And we've also got a conservative teen podcaster coming on next week. So he'll be on at 5, then we'll have Todd, then we'll have Ty.
what
Ty and
time
Ollie.
should Ty and I
You
be
guys are
here?
at 7.
Wow. I'm glad you have us last because I talk too much.
But anyways, so that's next week. Everyone, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Holly, for coming on. Everyone, thank Holly. She's a great representative for the county, be it you a Republican or a Democrat. She's an outstanding lady, and she suffers through my conspiracy-minded BS all the time and deals with it. But anyways, everyone who watched, Fred, get involved in that course. I think you'd be an asset to go down and help them out. You're an asset, and everyone digs being around you. You guys have a wonderful weekend.
Happy weekend, everybody.
Yes,
Thank you.
Safe, and stay out of trouble, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.